When you live in a quiet suburban neighborhood, you hope for peace, privacy, maybe the occasional friendly barbecue with neighbors. What you don't hope for is an HOA president who behaves like she owns the zip code, the county, and maybe even the entire state. Unfortunately, that's exactly who we had. Karen, president of the HOA for 8 consecutive years. Self-appointed keeper of morality, champion of unnecessary rules. A woman who could turn a sunny day into a thunderstorm with nothing more than her voice. And somehow, for reasons that still baffle me, she had developed a very personal hatred for my wife. Alina, now let me tell you something important about Alina. She is calm, respectful, polite, and she also happens to be the superintendent of the state police, which basically means she's the boss of every trooper, investigator, detective, and patrol officer in a few hundred miles. She doesn't brag about it. She doesn't flash power. She never throws her title around. She just goes about her life with quiet confidence. And maybe that's what made Karen furious, because people like Karen crave control. And nothing irritates a control freak more than someone who refuses to bow down to them. Our tension with Karen really started when we moved in 2 years ago. The first day, she greeted us with a clipboard in her hand and a smile so fake it could have been printed from a plastic mold. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she chirped. "I hope you'd understand that we have very high standards here." She handed us a 47-page HOA handbook. Not a PDF, not an email. A printed binder. Who does that? Alina accepted it politely, thanked her, and walked back inside. Karen watched her walk away with an expression I can only describe as threatened. From that day forward, she nitpicked everything. Our trash can was an inch too far left. Our welcome mat was not HOA approved. Our mailbox was 2 shades darker than the community guideline allowed. She once left a violation notice because our wreath was too autumn-themed for early September. But the breaking point in the moment she finally snapped into full villain mode happened. On a random Thursday afternoon, I was at work. Alina had taken the day off. She was relaxing on our front porch with a book and her iced tea. No noise, no disturbance. No rule broken. But what Karen saw was something else entirely. Karen saw my wife, sitting in a chair, on the porch, peacefully, and for some twisted reason that pushed her over the edge. She marched across the lawn like a mall cop in fast-forward mode. "Excuse me?" she barked. Alina lowered her book and looked up calmly. "Hi, Karen? Something wrong?" "Yes," Karen hissed. "You are not permitted to sit on the porch during daytime hours without prior exterior use clearance." Alina blinked. "Exterior use clearance?" "Yes," Karen snapped. Page 19, subsection C. Alina opened the binder from the shelf behind her. She always kept it nearby because the violations were so ridiculous they were almost entertaining. She scanned page 19. Nothing. Subsection C. Nothing. "Karen, that rule doesn't exist." "It does," Karen said, crossing her arms. "I wrote it last week. It will be officially approved soon, and it's not a rule yet." "It doesn't matter," Karen snapped. "I'm instructing you to vacate the porch immediately. And for safety reasons, you're not allowed to remain on the premises until I say so." Alina stared at her in disbelief. "Are you telling me I have to leave my own home?" "Yes," Karen barked triumphantly. "You have 30 seconds. This is where any normal adult would have backed off. But Karen wasn't normal. She pulled out her phone and dialed 911. "Hello?" "Yes, this is an emergency. There is a trespasser on my property, refusing to leave. She is being hostile." "Yes, I'm in fear for my safety." Lena didn't yell. She didn't panic. She just placed her book down and said, "You're calling 911 to remove me from the home I legally own." Karen turned away, speaking loudly into the phone as if performing for an invisible audience. "Yes, she's threatening me right now." She looked pointedly at Alina. "Stop threatening me." Alina calmly replied, "Karen, I haven't even stood up. Stop advancing toward me." Karen screamed dramatically, even though Alina hadn't moved an inch. Now here's the funny part. When 911 calls come in, they get screened. And when the claim sounds outrageous, like a supposed trespasser who is calmly reading a book, the call gets flagged. That means supervisors review the dispatch. Supervisors who work under my wife. So guess what happened? The dispatcher recognized the address, recognized Elena's name, and immediately notified the shift commander. Within 3 minutes, squad cars rolled up, not one, not two, but 4. And this is where everything blew up in Karen's face. 2 officers approached the porch. "Ma'am," one said politely to Elena, "are you okay?" Elena nodded. "I'm fine, thank you." Karen ran toward them like she was charging into a courtroom. "Arrest her." I told her to leave, and she refused. The officers exchanged a look. "Ma'am." "Leave her home?" "Yes." Karen screeched. "She doesn't follow HOA rules. She's been antagonizing me. I'm the president." The officer tried not to laugh. "Ma'am, sitting on a porch is not a crime. It is when I say so." Karen shrieked. That's when squad car number 5 pulled up. A black unmarked SUV. The doors opened. And out stepped Captain Rodriguez, the regional commander, one of the most respected officers in the entire state, under Elena's command, and he looked very unhappy. He walked straight toward Elena. "Superintendent," he said respectfully, "we heard there was an issue." Karen froze. "Superintendent." She turned slowly, her face draining of color. "As a superintendent?" Elena didn't grandstand. She didn't smirk. She simply stood and said, "Karen called 911 claiming I was trespassing on my own property." The officers looked at Karen like she had just confessed to stealing a police horse and riding it through Walmart. "Ma'am," Captain Rodriguez said sternly, "do you understand that filing a false emergency report is a serious crime?" Karen stuttered. I didn't, it wasn't false." She wasn't following HOA rules. HOA rules, the captain said firmly, are not enforceable by emergency services, and certainly not grounds for forcibly removing a homeowner from their property. Karen opened her mouth, but he cut her off. "Do you know how many actual emergencies we handle each day? Real crimes, real victims. And you called 911 because your neighbor was reading a book?" Karen started panicking. "I didn't know she was the superintendent." Captain Rodriguez stared at her. "The law applies regardless of who she is." Karen's jaw fell open. "Wait, you're still going to punish me?" "Being ignorant isn't a legal defense," he replied coldly. Then he turned to Elena. "Superintendent, would you like to press charges?" Now here's where my wife showed what leadership really looks like. She shook her head. "No, not today. I just want her to stop harassing us." Karen's shoulders sagged in relief. For a moment, it looked like she might faint. But the captain wasn't done. "Ma'am, your abuse of emergency services will be documented. You'll receive a citation and a mandatory court appearance." Karen gasped. "Court? No, please." And he added, "We will be filing a community misconduct report with the county HOA Oversight Board." Karen's eyes widened in horror. That board could remove her from power permanently. The officers dispersed. They apologized to Elena. They shook her hand, and they left. Karen didn't move. She stood in the driveway looking like a statue carved out of guilt and embarrassment. Elena picked up her book, sat back down, and calmly sipped her iced tea. Karen finally shuffled toward us. "I didn't know," she muttered. "I didn't mean all of this." Elena looked up. "Karen, this could have ended calmly if you treated people with respect." Karen nodded pathetically. "I won't bother you again." And surprisingly, she kept her promise. The next week, the HOA Oversight Board launched an investigation. The week after that, Karen was removed as president, and the new board apologized to every resident she had harassed. As for Karen, she still lives in the neighborhood, but she avoids us the way a cat avoids a bathtub. And every time a police SUV rolls through the area, she scurries indoors like the world's most terrified squirrel. But the best part? My wife still enjoys her porch. Every morning, every afternoon, and every chance Karen gets to glance over, she's reminded of one thing. You never, ever call 911 to abuse power. especially when the target is the woman who runs the entire state police force.